So today we're going to talk about the power of gratitude. And as I explored this idea of gratitude, we've heard it in so many ways about giving thanks is the greatest prayer. It's the most simple prayer that we can do. But the idea of gratitude, what is it really about? What I understand it to be, it's about shifting our consciousness. It's about elevating our consciousness. It's about taking our consciousness to a higher level of expression. And why would we do that? What does this mean? So let's look at the idea of what is consciousness. Consciousness is something that we really do not have words that can describe it. But we hear things like quantum physics says consciousness is the ground of all being. So behind everything, there's consciousness. When we hear about the divine, what is the divine? Divine is a consciousness. It's the essence of the mind of God that is creating all things out of itself. And so when we study New Thought, when we study religious science, we understand that all things begin with a thought. Well, a thought is something that is the consciousness. And when it's put into consciousness over and over and over again, it becomes a pattern of thought, it becomes a belief, and consciousness, which creates out of itself, takes whatever we're focusing on and brings it into our experience. So the idea then is, and it's so great when we go to, holiday parties have started, would you agree? And you're gathering with family and your friends, and when you meet new people, isn't the first thing that's asked is, so what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a minister. For years it was, I'm in the insurance business, or I'm a director of medical records, or I'm a hairstylist, or I'm this or I'm that. Isn't it interesting that we put that label on ourselves? When really, our consciousness is our only business. So when someone says to you, who are you? What do you do? I says, I'm about raising my consciousness. Well, what the heck do you think that's going to do? But you see, then you've got the idea, it says, by raising my consciousness, I'm allowing myself to have an experience of the divine. And they'll look at you and say, what's this divine thing? And you can immediately go, the divine is an experience of joy. It's an experience of love. It's about experiencing infinite abundance. It's about being able to create whatever I want at any moment, at any time, because I'm focusing on my consciousness. You see, the consciousness is our only business because it's the only thing that creates. Now, let's keep in mind, being that consciousness is the only thing that creates, we can have a consciousness that's unconsciously creating. We don't realize it, but our consciousness is creating even when we're not focusing it. And so what is gratitude? Gratitude is the decision to always be in a state of thanks, recognizing the good in our life. And by recognizing the good in our life, we recognize the oneness in our life. We recognize the God presence in our life. We recognize the infinite presence of our life. And by blessing it. See, blessing is a term that's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we used to get confused, or I used to get confused, that when I would bless something, I was a power. And by blessing it, I was bestowing my grace upon it. That's how I understood it to be, but it's really not that at all. Blessing something is acknowledging the good in your life. It's acknowledging and blessing my health. It's blessing that I'm here in this beautiful facility. It's blessing that I'm with like-minded people. It's blessing that I can shift my life in any moment by shifting my thought. It's blessing because I have the ability to unconditionally love beginning now. I have the ability to love myself now. And people look at me and say, what do you mean this idea of loving oneself? Well, I'm going to ask this question. When you were celebrating this idea of gratitude the other day, did you give thanks for yourself? Did you look in the mirror, look into your eyes and say, I'm so thankful for who you are? I'm thankful for the joy that you bring people. I'm thankful for the creativity that you are. I'm thankful for the presence that you are. I'm thankful for the good work that you do. I'm thankful how you share abundance. I'm thankful for the friend that you are. We probably gave thanks for, I've got a beautiful home, I've got a wonderful wife, I've got a car. But do we ever think about taking that gratitude and going within and saying, I am so grateful that I am here, and realize that I can change and I have unlimited possibility. I can change in this moment and be anything I want. I'm not too old, I'm not too young, I'm not too big, I'm not too small. I don't have this background or that background. None of that matters. I have it all right here because I am the pure consciousness of the one that has chosen to express uniquely as me. Isn't that something to be grateful for? Your life is an open slate. It's an open whiteboard. And when you project your thought through your consciousness onto that whiteboard, the whiteboard pulls all the colors that you can imagine and creates a picture of life. And you get to feel and sense and know that. You see, gratitude is not just about saying things, about seeing things. It's about feeling. It's about feeling that presence. Feel life within you. Just close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath and feel life pulsating through every aspect of your being. Feel it in your toes and your legs. Feel it coming up into your abdomen and your chest and your back, going down your arms, through your head. Feel this pulsation of life continuing to show through you. Now feel that pulsation of life moving out. Because you are not just your body. You are the infinite expression of life, the infinite expression of love. Feel it. Now feel it connecting with everyone around you. And feel yourself immersed in a state of unconditional love. Put a smile on your face, because love makes you happy. Love makes you smile. Love is the reason that we are here. So gently and easily bring your eyes back. Bring your consciousness back. And what I want to share with you is this idea of gratitude is not a response to something, but it's a state of being. It's a state of knowing that all that you need is already in your life, and you're constantly affirming it by being grateful. If this week you were sick, but you're here today, be grateful you have the health to be at Agape. And the more you focus on that health, the more health you'll create, because the consciousness takes whatever thought is predominant and creates from it. The greatest disease in humankind is this: I'll be happy when. I'll do this when. I'll be able to afford that when. I'll love that person when. And when we say those words, what are we doing? We're putting it off into the future. We're making a mistake. Going back to Catholicism, we are creating a sin. Sinful people out here. Look at you. You're all sinners. And do you know what sin means? It's an archery term that means missing the mark. Because the mark that you probably have set for yourself is to be joyful, to be healthy, to be whole, to be perfect, to be abundant. And so sin just means taking your focus off what you want and allowing it to go unconsciously, most likely, into something you don't want. So I want to talk to you about what are the three biggest obstacles to a life of gratitude. The first is fault finding and complaining. Finding fault with yourself, finding fault with others, finding fault with the world. And when you find that fault, what do? We start the process of verbal, I'm going to call it diarrhea. Because we start mouthing out complaints. This is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong. Next time you watch a politician, notice how much verbal diarrhea is coming out of their mouths. But most importantly, watch, are you connecting to it? Are you buying into it? Are you buying into the promises to fulfill the lack that they perceive out there? Or are you centered in the truth that there's an infinite abundance right now? Let's look at the idea of hunger. Because more than half of the world goes hungry to bed every night. Don't focus on the hunger. Focus on the fact that within this world today, there is 4 times the amount of food in the world that can feed everyone. Right now, today, there is 4 times the amount of food necessary to feed this entire planet. So if we focus on the fact there's abundance of food, that will start to show up for everyone. If we focus on the fact, is there a limit in the amount of air that we have? Or is it infinite? It's truly infinite. So if we focus on that, are we not giving thanks for an infinite flow? You see, the idea about an infinite flow, by being grateful, is we attract more to us. The second thing is, about that stops us from living a life of gratitude, is we take what we got for granted. Anyone ever do that? Yeah. You take your parents for gratitude, your children for gratitude, your wife for gratitude. Gratitude for gratitude. I like that. I take my wife for gratitude instead of granted. See how you just switch that a little bit? Go from granted to gratitude. So this Thanksgiving, when I walked, and I walk every morning, that's how I do my prayer work. I take a 45-minute walk, and on this walk, I prayed. What I did was a rampage of gratitude. I went through every aspect of my life, and one after another, I repeated, what am I grateful for? I looked at every single aspect in my life. My toenails, my fingernails, the hair that's left on my head. I was grateful for my wife, for my children, and I went through all the positive aspects of life. And when I got home 45 minutes later, I still was not done. What do you think the day was like afterwards? Was absolutely fantastic, because I opened my consciousness to a consciousness of oneness. I did the work on consciousness, which creates my reality. This is the tool that I'm talking about that we can use every day. The third obstacle to living a life of gratitude is that this is a real big one. I think this is the biggest of all, and that is we believe that we are separate. We believe that we are by ourselves and that we are alone. When if you go back to the very premise that we started the talk with, consciousness is the ground of all being. So the individualization of consciousness that we are is connected to every other consciousness that exists, because there's one consciousness. There's only one consciousness. And people will say, well, how can that be? Well, let's take this very simple example. If there wasn't one consciousness, could you understand what I'm saying? If we weren't all connected in consciousness, could you understand when someone's communicating with you? It would be impossible. Do you see how that works? You have to have a consciousness for everything to be a part of itself so that it all can harmoniously interact and react. So if we can buy the idea that there's this consciousness there, then we realize we're not alone. And so in religious science, we talk about the fact that there's only one. It's infinite, it's all-knowing, it's everywhere present, it's always been. And once we decide what it is, then we say, okay, now that we know what it is, how do we use it? How do we use this consciousness to create more good, to create more joy, to create more abundance in our lives? Because that's the gift that we have. That's the power that Jesus came forth and talked about. Jesus said it so clearly, it is done unto you as you believe. It is not I, but the Father. When he was talking about the Father, he wasn't talking about a separate being up there. He was talking about the universal consciousness that exists in all things, and when connected to that, we become all-powerful, that we can create all things. So from that, what happens? What does gratitude give us? It gets us in the now. When you're being grateful for what you've got, you're not thinking about what went wrong in the past. You're not worrying about what went on in the future. You're so present in the now, and the now is where the divine fully lives and breathes itself. When you're in gratitude, are you complaining? When you're in gratitude, are you worrying? When you're in gratitude, are you thinking about anything that you don't want? When you're in gratitude, are you building your own self-esteem? When you're in gratitude, are you a place where people are more likely going to want to come and be? Do you become a real loving friend when you're grateful for the goodness that you see in your friends? How do you think your self-esteem is when you live in a state of gratitude? It's fantastic. And where are you in gratitude? You are closer to experiencing the oneness of God than at any other time, because you're acknowledging all the magnificence that's in you. Because if you get down to gratitude, think about this. Be grateful for the 50 trillion cells in your body that know how to harmoniously interact, allow you to see, speak, hear, taste, touch, create, and know how to replace themselves. All of our cells within 1 year replace themselves. So how do we heal ourselves? By putting thoughts that we're whole and perfect and being grateful for our healthy cells. And then over time, as we feed these positive affirmations over and over again, our body recreates healthy cells that get away the disease cells. See how that works? The healing process is really simple. The body is constantly rejuvenating itself in every moment. And when we're thankful for the health that's in our body, the body hears that healthy message, and then it rejuvenates the healthy cells as the dead ones, as the ones that no longer serve, move away. The same thing can happen in relationships. It can happen with money. It can happen with jobs. It can happen with anything. The more we focus on the gratitude in an area, and in any area of your life, there are things you can be grateful for. We could sit, and we do this in our foundation workshop, where you will sit with a person, and you will sit with that person. They will listen to you for 7 minutes. You will do nothing but speak words of gratitude. It's like a barrage. Boom, 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 boom. And you will be amazed that you can keep going after 7 minutes. It seems like it's forever, because how many people have taken foundations? Raise your hands. How many people love the gratitude journal? Yes, you do, don't you? Because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel God. So, gratitude's biggest benefit is that it increases the flow of good, because it increases the flow because we've shifted our consciousness. So if I ask you, what is your business? Are you willing to commit to the idea that your business is your consciousness? Your business is about raising the level of your consciousness to a greater one than it was a moment ago. Because remember, the infinite is always becoming more. And you are the infinite expressing. So your role is to become more. The only way to become more is to lift your consciousness to a higher level than it was the moment before. The second you raise your consciousness 1 degree, your life experience changes by 1 degree. Does that make sense? You see how easy it is? So when you go to bed at night, we talk about this over and over. The greatest way to go to bed at night is to be grateful, to spend a few moments and give thanks for what happened in your day. Because you're going to bed then into the quiet, into the stillness, where your mind disconnects and you're in the non-physical, and you've allowed gratitude, thoughts that you're grateful for, to just build and steep in your unconsciousness. And when you wake up, you'll wake up in a more connected state, a state of feeling good, a state of feeling good, a state of feeling gratitude, a state of being the God presence.